Hello everyone. Tonight I'm going to be talking about my strengths and weaknesses as a public speaker. And at the end of my speech I'm going to be talking about different ways to improve on my public speaking abilities. So if anyone has a cell phone that's on right now, if you could turn it on to silent or just go ahead and turn it off, I would appreciate it. Thank you. So without any further delay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I think that one of my strengths as a public speaker is that I've had a lot of experience being able to talk to different people in the public. And what I mean by that is, as you know, my background, that I was a police officer in Texas for 7 years. And in those 7 years, I was able to speak with different people from different socioeconomic backgrounds, different ethnicities, different ages, from small children up to the elderly. And I did realize that you can't talk to just people the same way. You have to kind of conform to how those people are. Like I would talk more educated and more clearly with an adult as I might, speak a little bit softer or a little bit understanding when it comes to a child. Some of those skills that I learned as a police officer I got from a teenager taking speech classes in high school and middle school, and getting up at church as a child and talking in front of the congregation. Also, I got some classes at the police academy. We spent, I think it was about 2 or 3 days specifically on public speaking, report writing, and so on and so forth. And one of the things that stuck out to me the most, and even to this day, is one of my instructors stating that if you can't communicate clearly with people, then how are you going to give effective commands? And at the time, I paid attention and I was listening and I heard what he was saying, but I didn't understand it until actually I got out and actually put it to use with my job. So, I'm very grateful to be able to get that kind of instruction prior to just being thrown out to the wolves or sink and swim mentality. Like I said, I was able to hone these skills over a certain period of time as a police officer. And prior to that, as you also know, I spent 5 years on active duty as a Marine. I went in at 17, barely out of high school, didn't even really know much about anything other than playing football on Friday nights and hanging out with friends. But while serving as an infantry Marine in the Marines, I moved up into the ranks and eventually went from team leader to squad leader and so on. Well, part of being a leader is you have to be able to disseminate your commands to the Marines underneath you. Well, if you stutter or you speak softly or you talk too loud or whatever, then you may not be able to effectively communicate what you need to get across. And that translates people possibly losing their lives and or equipment. Another thing that you have to know, being a squad leader or platoon sergeant or so on, is you have to give certain briefings to higher individuals. So as a squad leader, I wasn't just briefing my junior Marines, I was also briefing higher ranking officials, to include a 1-star general with the 1st Marine Division. As great as a public speaker that I tend to think that I am, and I get a little cocky with that, I also have some weaknesses. Some of those weaknesses that I have as a public speaker is time management. What I mean by time management is I tend to sometimes go off a topic when I'm either giving a class or I'm talking about my speech. And I do so by giving out a story or trying to, talk about this or that or whatever, and I get off a subject, which sometimes, given a story, is good to emphasize a certain subject or topic. It's very easy for one story to turn into 2, into 3, into 4, and the next thing you know, you're spending more time talking about stories than covering all the material. And then when the time comes up for everyone to leave, you haven't covered all the material that you've needed to cover. So that's one thing that I do need to work on, is better time management. Secondly is I have a problem with procrastination. What I mean by procrastination is I tend to be just kind of lazy, and I don't prepare the speeches or the topics that I'm discussing the next day. I just kind of tend to wing it, or fly by the seat of my pants. And sometimes that's okay when you're talking about certain subjects, but sometimes you really need to sit and you need to prepare about what you're talking about. And I tend to not do that. So, knowing that, I need to go ahead and take time to prepare my speeches, whether it's researching, whether it's actually writing the speech down, or what. Also, another weakness that I just kind of figured out myself in talking to you guys is that I have an easier time talking to complete total strangers than I do to talking to people that I know. And just in the few minutes that I've gone up here and talked, I noticed that I'm a little bit nervous. And I tend to not be nervous when I do my public speaking. I don't know if it's more because I'm in an authoritative position at the time, or if it's just that I really don't care what strangers think. I'm not sure what it is, but that's something that, again, I need to work on and go from there. Some of the improvements that I need to do in my public speaking is, again, I need to stay on task. Maybe limit to one story to emphasize each note that I'm trying to emphasize, as opposed to 2 or 3, or encouraging other people to talk. Maybe I should go ahead and leave everybody else's stories and or questions to the end of my speech or the end of my class, as opposed to trying to get everybody's stories in at the same time. Most important improvement that I need to do is I need to prepare my speeches and prepare my classes that I'm going to talk about prior to giving them. I need to go ahead and write them down like I did so here, made a few notes, as you can see, and go ahead and I need to do that too. I need to research more. I need to just not think that I know everything, and I actually need to research what I'm talking about. So, with that also being said, I also should try and go ahead and practice my speeches or practice giving my class prior to actually giving them, so that way I can go ahead and figure out what it is that I need to take out or add, or so on and so forth. In conclusion, as you can see, I'm not as perfect as I think I am. Sometimes if I just take the time to write things down, I can discover things about myself that I didn't know. So I would like to thank everybody in advance and right now for taking their times out of their busy schedules to sit here and listen to me. And everybody have a good night. Thank you.